Welcome back. Wait, are we rolling? Yes, we are rolling. Sorry. Welcome back to Geek Channel 8. I'm Eric.
And I'm Will.
I've discovered a way to know that you haven't had enough coffee yet, which is I went out to refill my coffee cup, which is about half finished and cold. And I put more coffee in it, which was also cold. But before I did that, I warmed it up in the microwave for 30 seconds or whatever. And then I added the cold coffee to it. And then I realized I haven't had enough coffee yet today because if I was smart, I would have put the coffee into the mug before I put it in the microwave rather than the other way around. And no, that is not our lobby segment for the week. What's been going on in your media consumption landscape?
Oh, well, we're way behind on Invincible.
Invincible the comic?
Invincible, yeah, well, it's based off the comic. They brought it to animation. And like so many streaming shows, it kind of comes in fits and starts. But we have some banked up right now, so we can, when we need some time to dip out, from reality, we can check it out. We're reaching a point in the arc where it's like, oh yeah, that's liable to, I think where I know where this is going, maybe. But I know a little bit about the comic book. I've not delved into too much because I don't want the spoilers, but really, it kind of reminds me of a lot of the takes on alternate superheroes and specifically Superman. If you stray from DC Comics, or even within DC Comics at this point, once you create a living god, you have to ask questions about what that really means. And they ask the questions. But it's not all doom and gloom. It's fun. It's pretty fun, So
I think that a lot of people are making a lot of money doing what Alan Moore
Miracle Man,
already did in Miracle Man. Like
yeah.
that to me is the comic that, and to a lesser extent, the Squadron Supreme.
Oh, I don't think I know that one.
The Squadron Supreme was created by basically a fan who managed to get Mark Grunwald, I think it was. He was an editor at Marvel, and he was also like a super fan. Like if you've seen like Captain America shield that Stephen Colbert has,
Yeah.
that was made in the 1980s or something by Mark Grunwald.
Whoa.
He actually had commissioned the, and somehow it's made its way. I think he had three of them made, so that it may not be the only one. I don't know, but it was always on the back shelf in the old Colbert Show days and stuff like that. Someone had gifted it to him at some point. Anyway, that guy, he was the first one that I know of that started questioning this. He found this old superhero team
Mm.
that Marvel was ignoring or didn't really care about. It might have been their version of the Justice League. I think it was. It was Marvel's like knockoff of the Justice League in case they wanted, you know, I think maybe like people who work for Marvel wanted to tell a DC story or they had it in their back pocket and they're like, okay, well, we'll just use the Squadron Supreme for that, right? Anyway, Mark Grunwald dusted it off in the 80s. They had been around since the 70s and somewhere in the like early 80s. So we're talking pre-Watchmen and all of that stuff. He dusts this off and is like, I'm going to start looking at this in terms of here are these living gods. What responsibilities do they have to non-gods, and like do they make their own, like they start to make their own decisions about like, we know what's best for humankind, that kind of stuff. Anyway, I wanted to give a shout out to him because he doesn't get his due, Grunwald, compared to other comic creators. I think that the when this was finally made into a graphic novel, he had passed away, but he had his ashes mixed into the color dye
Oh,
and it
wow.
was published. I think so. I think I remember something about that. So that's how much of a super fan he was.
Yeah, no, that's a true believer, baby. I love it.
Yeah.
And somebody who, even as they are, okay, so what I love is to love the canon, but not like, well, I have to keep it exactly the way it was when I was a kid. No, more like I love the canon so much that I see even more potential in it. I'm going to grow it. That's, I think, a beautiful thing. Overall, the idea that we're telling these stories over and over again, well, okay. I used to have, like, I guess a complex. I'm like, man, this is the same story over and over again. Why am I so into this? And I'm like, oh, wait, how many times have they put on any given Shakespeare, you know, play? Well, it's the same story. Why are we watching that again? Because everybody brings something different, and you bring something different to it. If you do that, if you're not just going through the motions and you're bringing something different, then it's great that you revisit it. So yeah, when it comes to Invincible, I'm like, I feel like it brings something different. It gives me some kind of joy and something interesting. I don't know all of the canon of the Supermen, the where it's like, yeah, these are gods amongst men, and what can go wrong there. But amongst the ones I do know, I definitely enjoyed it. It's like zombie films. It's not really about the zombies. It's always about the humans and how they respond to this threat. And the same thing is true when you're exploring, if there are gods walking amongst us, we do want to know what's going on. That's because we want to know from his human viewpoint. By contrast, when we get into something like Dr. Manhattan, the struggle there is he even human? He's so detached. But it's always a human question. Otherwise, we would just write stories about cool powers with just giant robots. Okay, we do that too, but they're always anthropomorphic. We can turn anything, like literally, we can make an entire movie about shapes and their existence with each other, and we have, but it's definitely from a human centric viewpoint. And that's okay, because that's what we are.
All right, let's get into today's show. When I asked you to watch this, I made the mistake of telling you that it was a DC hero because I think at the time I was getting it confused with Turok, Son of Thunder, which is
Uh,
DC's pre-Columbian Native American hero. This is actually Turok, Son of Stone, a
uh,
Dell Comics pre-Columbian hero. So let me talk a little bit about this character and where Turok came from. Turok's a fictional character who made his first appearance in comics published by Western Publishing through its licensee Dell Comics. And he made his debut in Four Color Comics number 596, which came out in October and November of 1954.
oh,
And then he didn't reappear until issue number 656 in October of 1955, a year later. You can see how many comics they were putting out that they went from
oh,
596
they
to
were killing it, man.
656 in 1 year, right? Turok received his own series, Turok, Son of Stone, beginning with issue number 3 in March to May of 1956. Now, this is something you see a lot more in the older comics where they'll start with a later number. Modern comics, you would never do that because number ones are your best selling issue. Everybody wants them, all the
Right.
collectors and stuff like that. I don't know why they did this. I think it had something to do with retailers or whatever not stocking stuff that started with number one because there wasn't already a market for it. It's like they wanted to
Yeah.
start with something that, like, oh, this has already been around for a few issues. People are reading this, that kind of thing. But I don't know. Don't quote me on that. I just think I recall reading that somewhere when it comes to Golden Age and Silver Age comics. All right. So it was published by Dell, who eventually transitioned to Gold Key Comics from 1956 to 1982. Long story short, basically, they were like, we could do this on our own. And instead of like licensing things through Dell, Westerns like, we'll just create our own. And that became Gold Key Comics. Over the years, the character also continued to appear in comics published by Valiant Comics, Dark Horse Comics, and Dynamite Comics. Turok also inspired a popular video game series beginning with Turok Dinosaur Hunter, released by
Yeah.
Acclaim Entertainment in 1997. The success of the game led to several sequels across multiple gaming consoles. All right, so quick overview of the publishing history here. Western Publishing did, as we said, the original comic, Turok, Son of Stone. It was illustrated by Rex Maxon. The writer creator credit for Turok and Andar remains disputed to this day, with historians attributing the earliest stories to Matthew H. Murphy, Gaylord Dubois, and Paul S. Newman. So remember, comics creators did not get credit on stuff in the early days. So a lot of times we don't know who created some of these characters.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
In this version, Turok was a pre-Columbian Native American identified as Mandan in four color, number 596, and his younger brother Andar. They become lost in an isolated valley inhabited by dinosaurs. Many prehistoric creatures are referred to by descriptive names such as honkers for general dinosaurs, runners for tyrannosauruses, flyers for pterosaurs, screamers for velociraptors, sea demons for plesiosaurs, and rammers for triceratops. Which makes a kind of sense, Like it's not using, the Latin names.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, the stories were written by Dubois or Dubois. I'm not sure how you say the name. Primarily focused on Turok and Andar's attempts to escape the valley. Dubois drew inspiration from his visits to Carlsbad Caverns in New Mexico, which influenced the concept of the Lost Valley. After the debut in four color number 596 and 656, Turok Son of Stone received its own series. It ran for 27 issues, basically number 23 to number 29, under Dell Comics from 1956 to 1962. It was followed by issues number 30 through 125 from 1962 to 1980 under Gold Key Comics, and finally issues number 126 to 130 in 1981-82 under Western's Whitman Comics imprint.
Oh.
The first Turok one-shot was initially written by Dubois as a young hawk story, another Native American comic feature he created for the Lone Ranger series by Dell. Although the artwork consistently depicted Turok as an adult, Dubois's final scripts, his later scripts, continued referring to him and Andar as youths, more in line with young Hawk than Turok, though Andar was indeed a youth. All right, then under Valiant Comics in 1992, a reimagined version of Turok was debuted in Magnus Robot Fighter number 12. And this iteration, it altered both the character's concept and setting. Turok and Andar were now 18th century Native Americans, and their isolated valley was transformed into the Lost Lands, a mysterious realm where demons, dinosaurs, and aliens coexist, and time has no meaning. Due to a cosmic anomaly, time in the Lost Lands moves in a self-contained loop, meaning that while millions of years pass outside, time within remains nearly stagnant. The Unity crossover event further expanded Turok's story. In this storyline, the villainous Mother God, a psychotic superpowered being, establishes a base of operations in the Lost Lands. She enhances dinosaurs with intelligence-boosting implants, turning them into cybernetic creatures known as dinosaurs. After a climactic battle between Mother God and the heroes of the Valiant universe, the Lost Lands begin to collapse. Turok and Andar are flung into a post-apocalyptic future Earth with a group of dinosaurs following them, and they have to navigate a dangerous world filled with demons, aliens, Lovecraftian horrors, and technologically advanced warriors.
Man, that sounds like part of the Hex run.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Mother God seizes control of this future, rebuilding her empire while hunting Turok and Andar. And then in 1993, Valiant launched a new Turok series, Turok Dinosaur Hunter, which ran for 53 issues. It was a major success, ranking as the sixth best-selling comic in June of 93, surpassed only by the first 5 issues of Reign of the Supermen. Then finally, Acclaim Comics in 1997 and 98 had a new Turok series reimagining the character within its revamped universe. In this version, Turok was no longer a name, but a title, meaning Son of Stone. Turok is tasked with protecting the barriers between dimensions, with the Lost Lands serving as the axis of all worlds, a place where creatures from across time and space have been drawn, where time has no meaning. The latest Turok, Joshua Fireseed, must travel between alternate universes to stop those who seek to conquer the Lost Lands and, by extension, the entire multiverse. In video games, the Turok Dinosaur Hunter video game was released in 97 for the Nintendo 64. Its success led to multiple sequels across multiple platforms: Nintendo 64, Game Boy, Game Boy Color, PC, PlayStation 2, Xbox, GameCube, Game Boy Advance, etc. In 2008, the franchise was rebooted with a new Turok game for PlayStation 3, PC, and Xbox 360. In 2008, Disney's Living Mobile Studios developed a mobile Turok game released by Touchstone. The game follows Joseph Turok, a member of the whiskey company's elite squad, as he survives a plane crash and must battle dinosaurs to stay alive. Following the success of the Turok video games, a series of non-canon novels by Michael Teitelbaum was released, expanding on the game's storyline. The first book, Way of the Warrior, introduced the series, while Seeds of Evil and Arena of Doom followed Josh Fireseed's battles against the Primogen and Campaigner, respectively. A fourth novel, Path of Destruction, was published in November of 1998. And then finally, that brings us up to early 2008 when Classic Media released this 70-minute animated film, Turok, Son of Stone, on DVD. The story was developed by Evan Bailey and Tony Bedard, with Bedard also writing the screenplay. This adaptation reimagines Andar as Turok's nephew rather than his brother. The voice cast includes Adam Beach as Turok, Irene Bedard as Katori, the wife of Turok's brother Nashoba, Robert Nepper as the villain Chichak, and Cree Summer as Sapinta. The film was co-directed by Kurt Gedda, Dan Reba, and Frank Squillace, with former Aladdin and Hercules, the animated series producer Tad Stone, serving as supervising director. So there we go. That is a background to Turok, Son of Stone. I'd like to forget about everything that happens with the Valiant and Acclaim runs and the video games, because the film we're about to watch goes back more toward the roots of this character.
That's true. That's true. It's a great example of like, we like this character. What is my take on him? But yeah, I was like, wow, that's nothing like what's in this film. But what they present in this film feels very self-contained. It explains itself. So
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
okay, so there's two ways to go with this. All right. And then one of them, I'm like, wait, have I already done this? Without giving too much away, there is an occasion where somebody might be snacking on the long pig, as it were, without realizing it. And that's why I'm like, I think maybe we've done that before. But you want to get a piece of shank, pork shank.
You're going to have to explain to our listeners what the long pig is.
Oh, okay, yeah, the long pig or the white goat. This is this is the flesh of man. I don't even know if it's historical or it's just something somebody made up at one point. But it's, a reference to human flesh. And, it's delicious, right? I mean, pig is delicious, goat is delicious, and, human flesh, probably delicious. But, when people say, oh, it tastes just like chicken, it's like, I mean, most references aren't to chicken. They're mostly referring to when people, they talk about how it tastes like pork or something like that. I thought you were going to tell me I was going to have to tell you where the shank was. And I'm like, oh, I'm about to tell you where the shank is. It's basically the forearm of the pig, not the trotter. That's the down at the end, and it has its own deliciousness. But it's the lower front leg of a pig, and it is well, really good actually. There's a lot of skin. That's that part you would want it skin on. You want to cook it. In this case, I would put it right over a charcoal fire and just let that get nice and crispy skinned and turn it a lot, pay attention to it and then just get it just the temp, especially because in this particular depiction, they weren't cooking it very well. They probably would just barely cook it. So we're going to cook at the temp though, because reasons. And just a side note, temperature, you should Google it for yourself. But it used to be, it's like, oh yeah, you got to cook pork hard. No, you don't. You will probably enjoy your pork, whatever piece it is, more if you Google the temperature that is now the FDA recommendation and follow that internal. Because growing up, I thought pork chops are okay, except, they're pretty dry. Because my mom grew up, gotta cook them hard. You can't. And there were reasons for that. But one of the only upsides to pork that has been raised in the conditions we generally get pork from now is that the issues that came with pork that was more exposed to the wild, trichinosis in particular, don't look that up unless you want to be grossed out. You don't have that issue anymore. That's pretty much not happening in American pork. So cook it till it's just the temperature that's recommended, and then chow down. To keep it authentic, you would only have this taste of the charcoal, wood, or smoke, or, always use salt because salt is amazing. Now, the other way you can go with this, sorry for having extra, but I'm extra. You could splurge. Get yourself an ostrich egg. That would be my recommendation. Now, here's the thing about this. To be accurate, this is the genre where we're at. They're not going to have a pot or whatever, da 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 da. But I'm like, if you're going to have an ostrich egg, you're going to spend all that money, cook it the way you like best. Well, for me, which would probably be like, oh, I'm going to use 3 sticks of butter and, a giant pan. But if you want to, you could take it and you can cook it in the shell. You're going to want to look up the details of that. And again, over the fire. That would be more authentic. But between these two, always go with the pork. Pork's amazing. God, if pigs gave milk, okay, they do give milk because they're mammals, but if they gave enough milk to be worth milking, they would be like they give so much. They're like the giving tree. I mean, they probably don't feel that way about it, but yeah, they're amazing. So yeah, that's my recommendation with that is let's do the pork shank because it's tasty, and I don't know whether we've done it before, but it's worth doing again.
I am Turok.
Where are we?
It must be the underworld.
We have never seen others like us in the Lost Land.
We need your help.
From blood follows blood.
Turok!
Unlike some of the past films where I summarize stuff plot point by plot point, I'm going to just let you start with your initial reactions when you first started watching it, like the first 20 minutes of it, 10 or 15 minutes.
It's kind of a slow start. Not, oh my God, this is wide open. Go, 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 go. It felt like a comic book. I would compare it to a Conan book or something like that. It was action, action, action from the jump. And I loved it. So, you start out with these kids running through the forest, chasing two young men, chasing a young girl. It's all sweet and innocent. They run into an enemy tribe, and it's like on. And our protagonist, Turok, he's not backing down, even though there's only the two of them. The woman's not a combatant, and a whole bunch of these other guys. He's not backing down. There's no indication that he's ever been like this before, but like, man, he is essentially a berserker. He is like in this flow state of violence, and he ends them all.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was sweet. It was
Yeah.
sweet. It's like, boom.
And he's so berserk that he ends up accidentally attacking his own brother.
Yes. Rival brothers. Remember, we have to have rival brothers.
I thought that there was going to be like a cursed item, like an Elric sword thing for his tomahawk, and that's why
Right.
I thought that was going to be what it was. Like, but no, it's just he's just a crazy MF, you know?
Right, right. And it's like it came out of nowhere. You know, there's like, I'm an innocent kid. And then like, I mean, the action is awesome. It's like, ultra instinct is what the kids call it. That bam, it's on as soon as the violence starts.
And so we get something that we get in a lot of these comics for different reasons. They're like, no, you're just too crazy. We're gonna exile you,
Yes,
so that you get the loner wandering hero thing going on, I
absolutely.
feel like
Yeah,
there's shades of Jonah Hex here. I feel there's shades of like a number of other comic archetypes. I've already mentioned Elric, but definitely Conan.
yeah. So I really loved it because it's like there was no pauses. It was like just okay. He goes through all his murderous rage. He ends at all the enemy, and his brother's like, "Hey man, you okay?" Ah! He turns on him. We switched it. He survived. His brother's like barely alive. They're like, "You gotta get out. You blood follows you everywhere. You're clearly cursed." I mean, and then the next thing we are flashing forward like 16 years,
Yep.
and his brother is a chief now, and he has sent his son to ask for help because now Turok is living in some haunted looking woods place, and his nephew comes looking for him and say, "Can you help us? We're about to go to war with the same tribe
Yeah, because of him.
because of him."
Yeah, it's like that you started this.
And he's like, "No, I'm not part of the tribe. It's not my problem anymore." And there's no belaboring of anything. They never belabor any point. They just go. They just go, and it's like, oh, okay, that's not gonna work. So he goes back. You know, Dad's like, it's okay. We're gonna fight. We'll do this. And they go to fight. And honestly, I'm like, they're badasses. They're not. They're not. There's no slouch, right? Well, just cut to the chase. The other tribe has guns. So
Yeah.
immediately, like, this is not pre-industrial. They may not have built the guns. They certainly didn't do that. But like, the tomahawk is made of steel, and the other tribe has guns, and yeah, so they get wasted, and it's just again nonstop action. I think they did pretty good on the guns. They are single shot flintlocks, I believe. Maybe not then, but certainly later we see them, reloading and the time it takes to do that. So it's not like they're not 100% dominant, but it's depicted just like it's like wow, we never experienced guns before, and we don't know what the hell is going on, and they get just devastated. So his nephew escapes and begs for help again, and at this point, and then they're going to go kill the women and children. Of course, this is the girl in question. His brother's wife is the girl that he also loved when he was a kid. So he goes and he's like, I will kill them all. It's like, well, I wasn't going to do anything before, but now I am going to do something. And he goes to have it out with them. And there's a running battle, right? There's a
Yep.
running battle. There's gunshots. What's I think a neat detail. He goes up against a gun, and his nephew actually knocks him down because Turok has no concept of what a gun does. His nephew just survived a gun battle and saw what they did. And it's like, you can't just, that's not just a stick, man. And he saves him. The mom is kidnapped. As far as I can tell, everybody else is dead. And they're chasing after. Turok is steady trying to leave his nephew, but the nephew's, he's doggedly trying to keep up. And they chase them down. They follow the enemy. I don't remember. I don't. Do you have his name handy? I don't remember his name, but he's like the leader of the tribe.
It's Chichak.
Chachak. Yeah, he's strapped. He's got like 3 guns, and he's good with them. But he kidnaps Turok's brother's wife, which she has her own name, but I'm going to just say she doesn't have a lot of agency in this movie. And I mean, that's kind of okay, I guess. I don't know. So they chase them down this gully, which is filled with bones of large creatures. And you're like, what the hell is going on here? This is the first time when we're like, wait, this is something different. I thought it was going to be like a bear, right? And, they have him cornered when out of nowhere, this giant creature attacks. And like, it takes the entire head off the horse. Like, not just like, oh no, just take the entire head off. Dunsville. So
Yep.
what did you describe what this creature looks like, Eric? It's a dire wow, it's a diarrhea. I love that joke. All right.
Yeah.
It's a giant man-eating bird.
Oh, I forgot
That
about that. Yeah. Yeah. In they just call it the terror bird.
that makes sense.
This is based on an actual fossilized creature. They are known as terror birds. That's like their colloquial name. They're an extinct family of large carnivorous flightless birds that were apex predators in South America during the Cenozoic. Their scientific name is, let me see if I can pronounce this, Phorusrhacids or something like that.
Yeah, I wonder why we call them terror birds. Yeah.
Yeah. Imagine an ostrich, but with like a T-Rex head with a beak and teeth, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
So, yeah, this is a real thing or was a real thing. Points to them for finding prehistoric monster that has never, to my knowledge, been used in film before.
Oh yeah, no, it's totally. When I saw them, like it was great. It gave me an oh shit moment. I mean, it was really awesome. But
I had that moment of like, did they just make this shit up?
right,
And then I'm like, this seems awful real. I bet this existed. And when I looked it up, sure enough, they did.
yeah, it makes you grateful. Like I'm like, I'm not sure why those things died out, but I'm glad they did. Yeah, I mean, there was a long time before we created guns and stuff, and I'm not sure if we would have lived long enough to do that.
This particular flightless bird thing, in addition to wings, has hands. And apparently they did their research and they consulted an actual paleontologist at the time. And at the time, it was believed that they had hands, and it's no longer like that's been discredited, but it's not a mistake. It's at the time that was believed to be the
Yeah,
case about these things. So they did their research on some of this stuff.
yeah. Well, I love it. But in keeping with this on nonstop action, they follow through this cave and they come out the other side. I think going through a cave and coming out the other side is like a classic way of coming to the land of the lost or whatever, which is what they end up calling this place, their lost lands later. And then I'm like, why is it daytime again? Because it was already towards night.
This is a true oh shit moment where like, okay, we're not in Kansas anymore.
Right?
Chachak escapes and they go further into the cave. Turok and Andar find an opening that leads them to the Lost Lands. So here we have, it's called the Lost Lands here. It is classic Lost World.
Yeah.
It is classic Lost World situation. And we've been talking about this since the Lost World Jurassic Park and the original Lost World black and white film when we did those. It is a subgenre unto itself. They hear like thunderous footsteps and assume it is a herd of buffalo, but in fact, it is a bunch of grazing ankylosaurs
Yes.
that stampede and
And then immediately what I was going to call a T-Rex, but you have the actual right name for it because it looks like, again, I'm like, oh well, they took a T-Rex and they added horns to it. Nope, apparently not. Apparently not. This is a real thing.
yeah, it's a Carnotaurus. Carnotaurus, taurus like bull. Yeah, because it means meat-eating bull. It's a ceratosaur, so it's like other ceratosaurian dinosaurs we've talked about in the past. It's your Allosaurus, your like, bipedal, walking around, big giant maw.
Yeah.
This one happens to have two horns on its head, which makes it look particularly devilish. Think of it as a T-Rex with bull-like horns.
It looks awesome. It's like this is ridiculous. I thought it was like you just made that shit up because it looks cool. Nope. They decided, oh no, we don't need to make up anything because nature's fucking weird. Very
Yeah.
cool.
So Turok and Andar rescue Katori before they escape from both Chachak and the Carnotaurus
Yeah.
down a river on a log.
And the thing is that this is all like boom, boom, action, action. They go through this hollow log. It's sticking its head in there. You think, okay, well, we won. We're on the other side. It's like, nah, bruh. It's like, so it's going to follow them across this log bridge. and then it falls because a classic way of a small human in these movies escaping dinosaurs is that the dinosaurs lose their footing and fall, right? So it falls in the ocean, and so they're like, or in the water, that is, in the river, and they're like, okay, so how are we gonna get across? Ah! And immediately it comes out of the water. They're like, how are we gonna get back across? And then before they can do it, it comes out of the water, still chasing them. And the thing is, this is key to almost all of the dinosaur stuff. Even if they have killed something, which I believe it killed something earlier, they have food to eat right there. They will always chase the humans. Almost always. It's usually not like, oh, okay, I killed that. It's like, nope, humans. And this entire thing, they're like, oh yeah, delicious. We're gonna eat you. So they chase them, they go up a tree, he knocks down the tree, they go into the water.
As they go down this road, they see all kinds of things. They see an Archaeopteryx, they see
Yes.
pteranodons. There's a creature called a Meganeura that's eaten by a giant, like, carnivorous plant.
Yeah. Which that one, I think they made up that plant. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
But
I think that was
anyway.
made up. But there's a Megaloceros that was killed by a couple of velociraptors. But all of this brings us to my pick for the Dino on Dino Battle of the Week.
Dino Battle of the Week.
Nice, yes.
Where we have a plesiosaurus that's attacked and eaten by a Tylosaurus, which is the aquatic creature that then attacks them.
Yes. Okay, and I just want to interject here. First of all, we do have a river tour. We almost always have a river tour. And then on one side, you see the animals on either side. This seems like something that keeps on happening. So there's a river tour. They go down the river. They see the animals. The paleosaur is what we call, a lot of times that's when, like, it's Nessie. And see, it has a snake head and it's got the teardrop body. If you aren't familiar with those, that's what you'll remember. And then the other one, I don't know, how would you describe it? It's like you took a ginormous crocodile or alligator and instead of like legs, they had like fins, and then just gave it crazy speed and aggression. So yeah, that was a good fight. One of the things I love about this is that in the entire time, when it comes to humans, Turok will be like, yeah, no, I'm gonna face you down. But like when it comes to these things, he's like, oh shit. And he doesn't, he's not always, but he's like, run, or like it's fighting. He's incredible. I mean, he has superhero levels of just amazing badass. But it's not, there's never like, oh, he's just gonna kill that thing, no problem. It's always like, I'm trying to kill this one thing, and maybe I could do it, and then suddenly this much bigger thing is eating it.
Yeah.
And again, they run away. That's how they escape out because fortunately it can't leave the water. But they are
Yeah.
injured, everything.
Yeah. Yeah. So Chachak discovers what seemed to be another kind of human, probably a Neanderthal type thing.
Yes.
They're brutish. They have like pointy teeth and stuff like that. So they're not strictly Neanderthal, but he pulls a Ash like with his gun. Like,
boomstick diplomacy.
There's a boomstick moment here, boomstick diplomacy, where it's like he kills one and he's like, listen, you primitive screwheads, this is my boomstick. No, he doesn't say that, but practically he does. It's
oh yeah, no, there's the awesome, and the thing is like these things are insanely huge and badass. He shoots the one and he has to shoot it again. And it's a nice scene. They work the action. He's like reloading with his tamping rod because it's that kind of thing. And he doesn't even get a chance to take the rod out. He has to shoot the guy with the rod. It's pretty fucking cool.
These are Native Americans, but these are pre-Columbian Native Americans. So we're talking they have black powder weapons somehow. There's probably already been contact with Spanish or whatever,
right,
but
right.
They're like musket ball. They're literally early firearms, right?
Yeah. And I feel like, the idea, the underlying, it's like, we don't need to discuss it because it's not important. It's like they got steel weapons. They have that, but basically it's just like, yeah, somebody traded these to us. We're not interested in it's not about white people. This is between me and this other tribe, which honestly, that was true. Long before we showed up, or any, okay, I'm a black guy. Well, long before but I'm part of this Europe, whatever. Anyway, but like long before the West showed up and came over and blah blah stuff, with European influence, there was already beef between tribes, and of course, this time it's personal.
I mean, there's still beef. People think of this stuff as like ancient history, but there's still beef between tribes to this day, right? That's not an ancient history thing, right?
Well, yeah, no, it's fair. Okay, so at one point it is revealed. I don't remember when, but it's revealed that Turok killed his father. That's why he's so pissed. I don't know if we mentioned that, but he killed, those guys who in the very beginning that Turok killed. Those were somebody's parents. He craves vengeance. What I love is there's never like a time where it's like I'm gonna explain that your dad started this and that. No, it never gets into that. He says I'm gonna kill your entire tribe because you killed my dad, and but like Turok's never like there was reasons. Yeah, he doesn't do that. But yeah, the broomstick diplomacy, he uses that to take control of this entire tribe, and then he has to try to get from these people who he don't speak his language at all and are very primitive. Where the hell I need more people like me because I want to kill them, and he manages to do that with blood.
Meanwhile, there are more people like him in that there's a lost tribe, so to speak, the cliff people,
Yes.
who are not primitive humans like the Neanderthals. They are another tribe that Turok and Andar now find themselves with. The cliff people, at first, their matriarch, I think her name is Sapinta. She says, "Oh, to test you, you're going to bring us food." And he's like, "Oh, sure, I'll go hunting for you." And she's like, "No, no, no, you don't have to hunt anything. I want you to collect some eggs." And so they given this task to test his metal to basically steal some pteranodon eggs. And this leads to one of the more comic booky moments of this where he like goes up there and he gets attacked by the pteranodon, taken up into the sky. This is actually a little more white knuckly than most of these like pteranodon snatches a human in that we've seen in some of these other things like Valley of Guanchi and whatever. This is he gets up there like they go through clouds. That's how high they go, and
Yes.
like he eventually ends up riding it and taking it down and snapping its neck and killing it. He manages to survive crash landing it.
Yeah. Obviously, comic book origins. He is comic book level hero. He is, after he forcibly like forces it to fly the way he wants it to fly through sheer raw strength and determination and grit. Because mind you, he was being attacked by all of them, but it was his idea to be like, I'm about to fall. Screw this. I'm jumping on you. And, and it just when he crashes it into like the cave and then it falls, dust everywhere, and the dust settles, and he's there, and he snaps his freaking neck with his bare, string. It's like, well, damn, bro. This is not even like comic book in the usual sense. It's more like when you get a comic book where there's multiple short stories in it, right? And each one is like a continuation from last episodes, and it's just punchy, punchy, punchy. Everyone delivers, not a lot expository. Everything's just like action, action, action. 100%. Really
Yeah.
good that way.
Yeah. So there's a lot more going on here, but I kind of want to save people the spoilers on this one because I want to get into our reactions to this. I'm going to come out there and say that I really dug this. This is pretty prime for me. It's not perfect, but it is a feature length animated film that is not anime, but is still got blood and adult themes and stuff
Okay.
like that, and it is not made for kids. I also like that it is a fantasy film that is not Western European Tolkien dragons type thing.
Right.
It's its own thing. It is a Native American story that, as near as I can tell, is fairly respectful to Native American traditions and stuff like that. It features an almost entirely Native American cast of voice actors. Almost
Oh, I
everybody
didn't
in it.
realize that.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Almost everybody in it is, with a few exceptions of people who I think were animators that did voices here and there. But Adam Beach, who plays Turok, the adult Turok, is a Native American, as was the younger version by a different Native American actor. I counted at least 15 or 16 Native American actors in the cast of this. So that's almost everyone.
Ah, very cool. Yeah, I wasn't really sure about some. I'm like, well, I see there's some of the imagery. I was like, okay, well, I don't know whether this is being used appropriately or not. I'm not qualified for saying that. But in terms of, well, if you're depicting my people, if this is like, it's like, well, you're depicting them as like heroic and badass and all these other things. It's like, people with honor. You're having a whole story where it's kind of like sort of like the Bechdel test, where it's like, no, actually, we never even mentioned white people. That's kind of awesome. Uh,
Yeah, yeah,
I
they're
mean,
never mentioned in this at all.
yeah,
As far as we can tell, it has to be post contact of some sort because they do have guns. But that's all.
yeah. I mean, it's not important. It's not necessary. The story gets told either way. Okay, this is a weird thing, Eric. Normally, I will watch an animated movie. I know how much work it goes into it. I'm like, man, I'm always like, you guys, you could have tightened up on your writing. It's like I never understand why when writing goes south, when plot is bad, when you have spent so much money on the animation. I feel like everything writing wise, this was incredibly tight, no waste, just did what it was supposed to do, was pretty much perfect. And the animation it was a little lacking, but not so much that I couldn't enjoy the story. But I was like, oh man, you could punch this up all the way if you had even better animation. It would just be. I'm like, yeah, whoever wrote this needs deserves better animation because this was well written. It was a action story that had plot that made sense and a world that hung together. That's all we're ever asking for, really.
What more do you want? You know,
Exactly. Yeah. So if you like animation at all,
not only do I like the fact that it is Native American cast, it is a non Eurocentric fantasy film, but also they also get all the dinosaur stuff right too. It was like
right?
as well researched or more researched than most dinosaur films.
If and by the way, I was like, man, there is more axe murdering since. When's the last time I saw this much axe murder? Lord of the Rings, and even then, I'm like, you know what though? You know what this really throws back to?
Last of the Mohicans.
Dark Wolf.
Oh,
Oh,
what?
that's a good point. I was okay. I'm going all the way back. Do you remember when we were? This is way back.
Yes.
We were
Yeah.
watching Fire and Ice.
Fire and
Right?
Ice. Yeah, and also the tribe of primitive humans is very reminiscent of the tribe of primitive humans from Fire and Ice.
Yes. Yes. Oh, and the thing, okay, so Fire and Ice, perfect example. It's like, wow, the animation in that was incredible. The writing was, I mean, but I watched it. I would actually watch some of that again, and I'm referencing back to it because the when I'm like, when was I last time I saw this much beautiful axe murder? Excuse me for being like very American and loving axe murder. But anyway, the it was with Dark Wolf. The like when we're like, I think that guy's the star of the show, and then we kind of like it was like I'm like Dark Wolf was instead of being the blonde hair blue eye guy or whatever, he was dark and brooding and badass, and we made him. We have Turok, dark, brooding, and badass, and he's not even like I would actually even say he's not even arrogant. I freaking love this show. I mean, and again, I feel like the animation doesn't do it justice, but it's still good. So very fun, good times, man. Very good
Yeah,
times.
yeah, I can wholeheartedly endorse this film, but like I still wouldn't recommend this to like my mom or someone. This is a show for the fans. So if you are
Yeah,
into dinosaurs, if you're into comic books, if you're
mm,
into barbarian fantasy,
yeah,
Frank Frazetta type stuff, this is up your alley. So it has a small niche audience, but for that audience, it is one of the best examples of that thing you can find.
yeah. I like that. I think the reason why it got made probably was because the game was so popular. I remember actually my nephew, who was probably, I don't know, 5 or 6 at the time, not even 6, no, definitely not even 6. He just loved the game because he's out there dinosaur hunting with all these different weapons, right? But what I loved about this in particular is that the emphasis was not on our hero having guns and stuff. He was not, that wasn't his thing. So that, again, just another thing I loved about it. Yeah, very good stuff.
One thing that you mentioned, and I think Beck had mentioned to you with a previous movie, was like, why did this get made? And I had that same moment on this from the other direction. Like, I don't know why this got made. I'm glad it did.
Yes.
It's not connected to a major studio that we know of. Like, I don't think I've heard of the studio that made this. It was called Classic something, Classic Cinema or something. Classic Media, Film Roman Productions. I think
I mean, never heard of
the Stars cable had something to do with it.
that.
It was distributed by Universal and DreamWorks and stuff, but like I had never heard of the companies involved in making this Atomic Audio, Film Roman Productions. I hadn't heard of these companies, or at least I'm sure maybe I've seen stuff by them. It's not one that stands out like Blue Sky, like Studios
Right,
last
right.
time, but I'm glad it got made.
Yeah, and honestly, I want to know more about the writer directors and see if they've made anything else because I'm like, psh, that's some good
Well,
shit.
let's take a look. So the director of this, it has multiple directors: Kurt Geda, Dan Reba, and Frank Squillis. Kurt Geda is best known for Batman Beyond, DC animated stuff. You
Yeah.
know, makes sense. Dan Reba is best known also for DC animated stuff, including he directed Batman Mask of the Phantasm, which, in
Oh,
my
damn.
opinion, is the best Batman movie ever
I,
made.
right? I remember like, yeah, no, that's a great Batman. That's a great origin story and everything, man. Yes,
A-
100%. Yeah.
And Frank Squillis is known more for other animated stuff, including, I think he worked on the X-Men animated TV series, the one in the 90s.
Which has a resurgence right now. So yeah, okay, let's face it, DC animation, and when it comes to I'm not breaking new ground here to say that their animation is amazing. A lot of that was owed to Duffy, who's passed, and but like they've always been strong. So that makes perfect sense that they would have gotten these guys to write and come out with a great product. I mean, again, I cannot emphasize enough how tight I feel like everything was. No waste, just straight ahead.
We don't need to belabor the point. You need to see this if this is your thing. And I think we need to wrap it up and say, if you like the program, you can email us at GC8podcast. That's letter G, letter C, number 8 podcast, all one word, at gmail.com. You can like us and follow us on Facebook. We have a Facebook page and a Facebook group. The group is where we're a little more active. And we also have a YouTube channel. We don't pay much attention to it, but it's just a re-feed of our podcast feed. So don't expect any video. It's just the audio, but it's on YouTube for people who prefer that platform for their audio. Other than that, we are asking everybody to recommend the show to 2 friends this year. Have you recommended the show to 2 friends yet, Will?
I have indeed. I've
Okay.
used my vast social media powers as well,
All
such
right.
as they are.
Until next time, this is Eric
And this is Will.
signing off.
It's kind of a slow start. Not, oh my God, this is wide open. Go, 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 go.